Hey, it's me, GV, and welcome to a quick review of the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC for Elden Ring. For those that don't know, I am a massive fan of the Soulsborne series, which is why we kind of put everything on hold and, did everything in the DLC. At this point in time, I've done everything except for I need to go back and find all the little things I've missed, little talismans and weapons and stuff. But virtually everything is done in the Elden Ring DLC, and yeah, I'm such a big fan of the Soulsborne series that I have it tattooed on my body. There's the Astral Clock Tower from Bloodborne with the Eclipse from Dark Souls 3 going into what I like to think is a Dark Souls 1 bonfire. And so, yeah, this was a big moment in time for me, obviously, a moment of great excitement to experience new From Software Souls-like content in the form of Elden Ring, which was very exciting, to say the least. So what do I think about the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC? Overall, I really liked it. I mean, it's obviously very quality, the boss animations, the animations in general, the look of the map, the beauty of the map, all the wonderful things to find, the weapons, the cool, interesting things, as well as different play styles, and really just awesome creativity in general is all there. I mean, it's all there. It's present and accounted for. But there are also, I think, about 3 glaring things that are very annoying to me to play through it as well. And before I go further and mention those things, keep in mind, this is somebody that really is stubborn and really wants to play these games solo no matter what. I know, obviously, Elden Ring moved into a direction of using spirit ashes and even more summons like the base game Radon fight. Really, really powerful things, I guess, like the Ant Spur Rapier that can make the final boss in this DLC a joke, I guess, if you poke him behind a big shield and Scarlet Rot him to death. I don't like doing any of that stuff. And before people take that as an attack, because sometimes people will take that as an attack, that I prefer my own playstyle, which is a bit ridiculous. I don't care how you play the game. You can play the game in any way, shape, or form you wish. I do not care. I just choose to play this way because, I think around Bloodborne or Sekiro for me, it kind of clicked like, oh, this is what's about, kind of learning the bosses and hard things one-on-one, breaking it all down and getting through and beating it. That's what I enjoy. So I refuse to use Spirit Ashes, summons, or anything considered overpowered or even, cheese, basically. That's how I like to play, so keep that in mind with these negatives. It's kind of a byproduct of that style. So I understand if you're using all of those tools, yeah, a lot of this is probably not going to be nearly as frustrating. So my biggest issue is the boss difficulty. And trust me, I know I'm fighting an uphill battle here. Nobody wants to admit something might be too difficult, especially a notoriously difficult series. However, I would be lying if I didn't tell you that I found a lot of the Remembrance bosses overtuned in some way, shape, or form, to the point of really being a slog to learn, break down, and succeed over. There were some really, really good bosses. By the way, this review will have no spoilers. There were some really good, enjoyable bosses that I really did enjoy practicing, breaking down, eventually beating. But I think what's best exemplified in the final phase of the final boss, which if you don't care about spoilers, go and watch that video because I made boss guides for everything. It's too much. It's just generally too much to the point of not being fun, in my opinion. And if you go and look at the wiki comments for like any of this stuff that I find overtuned, you will find literally everybody talking about the best way to cheese these bosses, the best builds and spells and things like that in order to, basically get behind a giant shield and poke it to death until it dies of a damage over time, which I don't think is hopefully what the developers wanted, what Miyazaki wanted to, have a lot of people fall into that sort of play style, which I totally understand because especially exemplified by the final phase of the final fight, it's just so ludicrous and insane and over the top. I think From Software basically overshot their design philosophy in an attempt to be even harder. They were like, oh, we got to ramp things up, make it even harder so it's more memorable. I think they overshot it. I think they kind of lost sight a little bit of the pacing and balance of the past amazing fights. The final boss of Sekiro, the final boss of the Bloodborne, DLC, things like that. Now, like I said, some fights are very enjoyable. I don't really want to talk about spoilers, but kind of the poster boy for this DLC was great. I really enjoyed fighting them and beating them. It was much more of an enjoyable process for me, as well as some other Remembrance bosses here and there. There are some Remembrance bosses that are so laughably silly. Looking at you, Gaius, I'll just say. But, yeah, that's kind of my biggest issue with this DLC, especially with my playstyle, is that a lot of the bosses feel like they either need nerfs or just under-tuning by 10 to 15%, and it was a lot of that, and it got a little, exhausting at points. And trust me, again, I know I'm fighting an uphill battle. People are going to be like, oh, just get good, scrub, whatever. You can have that opinion if you wish. That's just my honest thoughts. The other thing is the Shadow Tree fragment system, where if you don't know, you have to enter this DLC. There are 50 Shadow Tree fragments that basically serve as a new leveling system. The more you find, the more damage you deal, the less damage you take. So you literally have to find all 50 in this massive intertwining map in order to have the best buff, which I personally dislike a lot, because I went pretty much everywhere and I'm still missing like 3 levels of the buff, which means to get the full maximum buff or whatever, you really have to search for them, look them up online basically. And I guess they did this in an attempt to sort of cut down on people over leveling. They wanted a new sort of, you can't take just a level 500 character in and steamroll everything. They needed, you need to go find these things, which kind of feels, again, for my playstyle, like I'm being punished. It's like, I just want to play the game and learn the bosses in a fun way. But no, now I have to go find these Shadow Tree fragments, which honestly, at a certain point, I just didn't really care. I was just like, hey, I'm going to learn and beat this boss, even if I'm at a disadvantage with with this buff and debuff. My last negative is, I guess they tried to change the map exploration a bit, because there were a lot of situations where I saw a really cool thing and I wanted to go explore it, and it was locked behind something, whether it was a cliff that I could not traverse, or whether it was behind one of those spirit springs with the rocks that you have to go find the other rock to break open the spirit spring and then be able to jump. It just felt like at a lot of points I saw things that I was interested in going to see and find, and the game just said, no, you have to find one specific cave, one specific drop, one specific spirit spring to get to this thing. And I just feel like the base game of Elden Ring was way more explorable to you see a thing, you go find the thing, and you get excited to experience it. I don't really know why they made this DLC so much more so having to jump through hoops to get to those cool things. So those are my big negatives, with the main one being the boss situation, which, like I said, I really do think, just based on what they did to base game Radahn, they will nerf some of the stuff, and maybe it will be a more enjoyable experience for somebody with my play style. But yeah, I just really wanted more out of the bosses in general. I wanted to feel more satisfied, and yeah, I didn't really get that as much as I was hoping for, basically, especially with that final phase of the final boss, which I purely detest. I did not enjoy learning and beating that at all, which you can see by the video that I uploaded. Now, on to the positive things. Obviously, it's an amazing DLC outside of all of that. They did, From Software is just so creative, whether it's Hidetaka Miyazaki or the creative team or whoever. I don't know anything about game design, but I just love how weird and odd these games are, with such little crazy things like the new fist weapons that do all sorts of weird stuff, or all the new crazy spells. I love all that. I love it to death. I love seeing a weird thing and going, oh boy, I can't wait to use that, which is why it was really disappointing when I fought a guy that could stick a frog tongue out of his mouth, and then I found out either nobody's been able to figure out where that is yet, or you just can't use that. But yeah, the weapons, the weapon arts, the Ashes of War, where, each weapon has a special ability, the talismans, the armor sets, those are all fantastic. They really did a great job with making some really cool, interesting stuff, and I love it. The overall look of the map in different areas, which I won't even spoil, awesome. There's some really, really cool areas that I was so excited to experience, especially where the manse is. I'll just say that. I really love that place, even though another kind of negative is there seems to be a lot of empty spaces without not too much going on, especially in the DLC. That was the thing with the base game as well sometimes. But yeah, the map itself is cool, how the map literally looks, as well as all the differing little areas that have different things going on, and the exploration, and just, you know, walking to some random corner and finding some boss that has some weird thing that you can use after you kill him. Awesome. As well as the catacombs and the caves, they kind of switched up the dungeons, made them differently themed, added crazy new stuff. All that was great. The exploration was great. All the new items and everything was great. The map itself is cool. The ideas of what's in this DLC. As far as lore, I don't know anything about lore. I always need to like play these games and watch a video. Apparently the lore is a big deal for this DLC, but I'm not really going to talk about that because I don't know what happens. I play these games mainly for the gameplay and the exploration, and then I kind of watch videos on what the heck is going on, because if you don't know, these games usually are told, the story is told through character dialogue that is vague and also item descriptions. So yeah, I usually don't know what the heck is going on, even though I did read a lot of it and I did find it interesting. I just don't know what's going on. And that's basically all my thoughts. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I mean, it's definitely extremely worth $40. It is jam-packed to the brim with new stuff. If you want more Elden Ring, you're going to get it here. For me personally, I just walked away with, man, I really wish I had a better time with some of these bosses. I really wish I felt more satisfied learning and beating them, which I've gotten greatly in the past with the other games. And I feel like now they're kind of overshooting the difficulty curve to getting into just unfun territory a bit. I understand that may be a hot take. I get it, but that's how I feel. So would I recommend the Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree DLC? Absolutely, of course. I mean, you know, even if you find it too hard or whatever, there are builds that you can use to steamroll everything, whatever type of way you want to play. There is a build that exists, which is one of Elden Ring's biggest strengths. And yeah, it's extremely well done. It's extremely quality. I just personally wish I enjoyed the boss fights a bit more. So that's my take. Hope you enjoyed this review. Hope you enjoyed my full blind 100% playthrough, which will be finishing on episode 16. And then we'll be getting back to the other stuff. And yeah, hope you enjoyed the guides as well. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.